Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Right. I thought we'd got everybody in the room, that's why I started. Sorry. Right, good afternoon. My name's Louise Wilson. I work for a small organisation called Outside the Box, based in Glasgow, but we work across Scotland. We're an independent community development agency, and we tend to work with what we would consider often called disadvantaged communities. But I'm absolutely delighted to be here today and to have been invited to facilitate this session. We've got an hour in this room, so we're here till 2:30, and then we'll be guided back to the room we were before. If you're anything like me, you have no idea where that room is, but if we all follow each other, I'm sure we'll find our way back. We've been given a set of instructions for our discussion this afternoon. And what I'll do just to begin with is to outline that, and then I'll make some introductions to my colleagues either side of me. What we've been given, and I think Tom mentioned it right at the end before we broke to come for lunch, was he said two things really, which was to have a discussion about what would make our society more equal, more just, more socially just society, but also for us to think about how we go about doing that and how does SOPA go about doing that. So for this discussion, what we've got is Bill MacDonald, who's, if I've got this right, he's on the SOPA committee. He's just going to outline, just for a few minutes, some of the issues and priorities that were raised as part of the discussions that have gone on locally throughout the year when SOPA's come to different towns and different places. So he'll talk through those for about 5 minutes or so. Suzanne Loden, from Edinburgh City Council, is going to be scribing, writing up our discussion on the flip chart as we go. So Bill will talk for about 5 minutes, highlighting the issues. We'll have an opportunity to question him about some of those issues, just say for about 5 or 6 minutes, and then it will be to have a discussion about the things that are important to yourselves. And what I'd like to do is be able to try and get a sense of the two topics that you would like to discuss in a bit more detail from the list that's in your booklet and that Bill will outline. We'll discuss those for about half an hour or so, but at the end of the session we have a sheet of paper that says what we in room 4 talked about, but also, more importantly, what campaign actions, what would you like to do to make that more, for SOPA to take forward, to say these are the things that are important to us and we think they will be useful to make our society more just and more fair. So action points, campaigning action points is what we want to take forward. And we've got 2. We've got space for 2. And when we feed back into the main room, when we find it and we're guided back there, Bill will feed back for us and say, this is what we suggested from the people in room 4. Okay, so that's the process, and we'll give it a go and see if it works. I think it will. It's been done before, and what it will be clear is that we've got an idea for SOPA about the things that are important to the people in this room and the things to take forward. Okay, the other thing that I've been asked to just start with is just thinking about how we talk. And it's the usual stuff that I know you'll follow these things anyway, but it's about we all have different views. Can we respect each other's views? Can we take it in turns to speak? And when we talk about speaking, the microphones, mine's going to be left on so I can say, excuse me, can so-and-so speak now? But I've also been told 2 things. 1, we're not to touch the stuff in front of us, this bit. Thank you. Hands well away. We've got a technician here, and he will, when we want to speak, he will press them on and off for us so you don't need to worry about those. So I guess then if you can just kind of indicate to me that you want to speak, and I'll probably have to cue you in because I'd imagine you've all got lots to say. And then the microphones will come on for you. The other thing to say about the microphones is about your mobile phones. They affect sound waves, the electronics, I'm not sure what it is, but our instructions are, can they either be off or on airplane mode, please, so that we can make sure that they work. Okay. Okay. Now you did that. So shall we make a start? Is everybody kind of happy about how we're going? And I'll keep referring back to where we've got, and I'll keep an eye on the time and make sure we're complete. We've got 55 minutes left, so I will also try not to do too much talking as well. If I could now turn to Bill, if that's okay, 5 minutes.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I'll be less
or
than
less.
That.
Less would be good. Thank you.
My role here today is to give you some background as to what SOPA has been doing over the last few years. Can I say to you that my task has been made a lot easier because Tom covered the bulk of it when he was speaking in there. But what I'll do is I'll quickly go through some of the stuff so that we know exactly, as I say, what's been happening. Now, you've got, as I say, a document that we were all given here. Oh, that we were all given here, as I say. Now, within that document, you'll see there was a local campaign trail. This was the trail that SOPA used when they were throughout the year there. And what they did was they arranged a whole series of assemblies with the council and the various senior forums and the various senior citizens organisations within those areas. Now, what happened was that there was something similar to this in most of them, where they would break into groups, discuss issues that were of concern to them, and came back at the end of the assembly with proposals that they would like put forward. What SOPA then did was took all of that data and came up with their action plan for this year. Now, this is the action plan here. Now, I don't know if you will have seen this, but you can find it. It is on, as I say, the website, and it outlines clearly everything about every area that, as I say, that SOPA visited is in there. So if you're from a certain area, you'll get a breakdown, hopefully, of your area in here and what the results were for your area. They also have, from the action points, and I'll go through those in a minute, a breakdown here, which is part of the action plan, of what has been happening since then. So if you go into the website, you should be able to get a copy of the action plan. I have to say to you, it is good reading. Sometimes these can be a bit dry, and you think, oh God, this is a nightmare. But I have to say, there's a lot of stuff here. And if you look at your own area, you'll find, I'm sure, that your own area will be quite good. I just want to mention this. These are all documents that I downloaded from the website. I will go into the website and check if there's anything that I need to see. But there was a document here that says, who are the older people of Scotland? Now, there's lots of different people have sort of different images of us, and we know that the media has their images where we see somebody who is either on crutches or on a Zimmer or something, and this is the image that they try to project of senior citizens, which is totally wrong. And what we need to do is we need to let them know, hang on a minute, that's wrong, we don't accept that. And it says here, who are the older people of Scotland? It says that we are assets and contributors to the economy, that we are. We are parents, friends, partners and mentors. We are grandparents. We are carers and kinship carers. We are workers, volunteers. We are entrepreneurs. As I say, we have groups, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, disabled people, black and minority ethnic communities, all have older people. So they do, as I say, and we need to recognise this. And this is what SOPA has been doing. We have been going round the different organisations, having meetings with them to say to them, we need to link together because we want the same as what you want. And you have information, you have skills that we could use, and equally, we likely maybe have skills that you could use. It says there, we are recipients of health and social care, and we know that, because that's an area that we will spend a lot of time, I would think, in the future discussing. And the very last thing, and it's not the nicest one, we are people who suffer discrimination, poverty and abuse. So we do, and we need to look at these things and say, how can we overcome these? How do we make sure we overcome them? But I thought that was important because the image that people, I like the bit where we're entrepreneurs, we're volunteers, because that's what we are. As I say, think of it. My daughter has her twin boys and my wife looks after the boys. So she does. She's the carer. She goes and gets the boys. Anyway, back to this here. We have 6 main action areas, and you'll see this on your document at the back. So they are. Now, I know that when you filled in your initial forums, you picked one out. But as I say, the areas are health and social care. Now, I've highlighted bits of this that I thought, as I say, it was worthwhile mentioning. If we look at the health and social care one, it says older people not on integrated joint boards. Now, we need to get people on that. I was talking to John this morning, as I say, and he was saying that he wanted to be involved in this. So hopefully we will become involved in this. Also, there's isolation, loneliness and threat to life. And this is what Tom mentioned. These are things that we have to look at addressing. In the transport and travel environment, there's a lack of a range of transport options to provide access to education. Now, that's really important. If somebody wants to go and take a course, we need to be able to get there. We don't want to be left sitting in a house because, as I say, we can't get there because of the transport situation. The community empowerment area that we'll look at, poor understanding of the community empowerment legislation. As I say, I'm hoping that people here will be able to maybe enlighten me a bit on that. There are poor opportunities in some areas for involvement in learning and supported volunteering. These are issues, as I say, that I would hope would be discussed. This one here, retirement, pensions and money matters. There are major concerns about food, fuel and funeral costs, and Tom mentioned these. So he did. He mentioned, as I say, this, and I think this is something. There are so many anomalies in the pensions. I started getting my pension, I have to say, this week. So I did. But when I check with other people, everybody's getting different amounts. And as I say, you have to then start investigating. So I'm now moving into that investigation mode as to why is it like this. But the very last one, communication and information, computer use, difficult for some. Paper communications and forms are ambiguous. It says in that first statement. As I say, so we've got this. And this last one here, housing and community safety, shortage of affordable, accessible and fit for later life housing options. Now, I think this is really, really important, and I think Tom did allude to this. I stay in an area where there is a series of houses, and most of them are occupied by senior citizens. And we have one wee woman who lives on her own and has 4 bedrooms in her house. And it's become so difficult for her, she now has to live upstairs, where they've converted the room upstairs because the toilet's upstairs. I know that she would want to go to some form of sheltered housing, but there's nothing available for her. So this is something that we need to look at. I don't have much more to say to you. I think that's most of what, as I say, I would like to have covered.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Are there, on the issues that Bill's just outlined, are there any particular questions or points for clarification that anybody would like to make? Yes, the gentleman down there.
I think, you can hear me, that's a pity.
Yep, you'll be switched on.
Perhaps we should think a wee bit again before we say Zimmer, sticks, wheelchairs, etc. are not us. They are. They are, and quite a number of our people are using those things. And I think we've got to focus into that and get a wee bit acceptance and a wee bit of respect for this. I was delighted this morning when a young lady stood up and gave me a seat in the train. Being a retired gentleman, I should have actually said no. But it's great that younger people are indeed recognising our needs. And I think we should visit that thing again and say, is it not a fact that we have Zimmers, we have sticks, we have wheelchairs, etc. And can we not think more about this and get it more accepted, make it more acceptable? Right. What do you think?
Okay, thank you.
I think I agree with you.
Right.
I mean, I agree with what you're saying. It was just that this was the image that I seen through the media, when the media portrayed, as I say, whereas, I mean, that was all the point I was making.
Okay. Here, and then the lady in blue.
Yeah, just on that note, because that occurred to me when I heard you say that I run a group for older people in Berwickshire, and the age range is from 60 to 93, and I'm organising days out to different places for them. And often I have to think about, in fact, a couple were coming here today, but they were worried about the amount of walking between rooms and up and down, and because I have some people who I need to organise wheelchairs for if we go and we have to walk a distance. When we went to the Kelpies, and so it is an issue that it's a whole spectrum of older people, is a whole spectrum. Yeah.
The lady in blue.
I want to pick up the one on health and social care, where it says older people not aren't on integrated joint boards, isolation and loneliness a threat to life. Well, the integration joint boards do not allow anybody except one user to be on the board, and she has no, or he has no vote. You've got, I think it's 8 councillors, and I'm talking from Glasgow now. You've got 8 councillors who have a vote. You've got the whole of the health board, the integration board, have all got a vote, and you've got one user on that integration who has no vote. And the other thing is, it's an older person. And that older person, surely, if you're working with the integration board and wanting things done, and you surely need some help with that, not just even for taking over if you're not feeling well that particular day, but you need help, and that's not available. And we have asked and asked about this in Glasgow, and nobody's paying any attention.
Okay.
And I don't know what like that is in the rest of the boards, but if anything, if the other councils are the same as usual and all do their own thing, I'm quite sure they'll be doing much the same.
Okay, thank you. I think that's one of those issues where we can have it written down, but I don't think we can necessarily find answers for you for today.
Yeah,
but I think if you're experiencing it, other people will do.
Agitating about it.
Yep. The gentleman there, is it a question about these points?
It's basically
Yep.
about my name's David Gavin. I'm the chair of the NPC Scotland. It's the National Pensioners Convention. And my point is that is SOPA signed up to the NPC's dignity code?
Right, again, that's a good question. It's one that we can find out for you, but we can't give you the answer this afternoon. Is there the lady there, and then can we then close it down for questions about this, and we need to decide which subjects we want to talk in a bit more detail about. So,
my name is Kulwinder Singh, and I'm representing the Sikh community in Edinburgh. And it was the health and social care question about the loneliness and threat to life. And since about the 1940s, the Sikh community that have been in Edinburgh now are the older community people in Edinburgh, but we don't have any centre or anywhere like for them as they're getting older to get together. There's lots of them that are quite lonely. Now, at first in the Sikh community, there used to be the extended family thing, but that's not happening anymore. Most parents and that are being left on their own now, and then there is, we would need some sort of help there anyway to get a centre set up for the Sikh community in Edinburgh. We've all been taxpayers and living and working in Scotland and Edinburgh. Is there anything that can be done or help towards that?
okay, right, thank you. Again, I think that's an issue that we can't necessarily answer for you today, but there will be people who know that's important to you, who perhaps can give you answers as we go through the afternoon. If then we look at the 6 issues that have been highlighted by Bill: housing and community safety, health and social care, transport, community empowerment, retirement and money and pensions, and communication and information. Which of these issues would you like to spend a bit more time discussing this afternoon? Yep, if you can just tell me what they are. If you want to go ahead.
Health and social care.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen.
I think community empowerment for me is one of the most important ones, because it's going to kind of have implications for everything else. If we don't have the power to be consulted and have a say in things, then how are we going to get involved in all the rest of the things? And I think with the community empowerment bill, in my own area, they've decided to have local area committees. They're way behind. The integrated health and social care partnerships are setting up a similar thing, so you could have two empowerment things.
Good point, well made. Let me just take a show of hands. Can I go? I'll cue you in. So the lady with the stripy top, is it Robert next to it? Yep. And then with the two ladies here, yourself, and then, yep. Okay, so we start with the lady in the stripy top.
Thank you. My name's Frances
So
Hodgkinson.
which subject is it?
It's the communication and information.
Right, okay.
Right,
okay.
Just
We'll
leave it at
come back to you
Okay.
then. Robert, what were you interested in?
Community empowerment, it's a good time to be talking about it, because nobody knows how it'll work yet.
Brilliant, thank you, Robert. The lady with the headdress?
Yes,
Yep, scarf.
The housing and community safety.
Housing and community safety, right, okay.
Community and empowerment.
Community
Agree with this
empowerment.
gentleman.
Right, okay. Can we then, just looking at the issues, did you have your hand up? And then the gentleman there.
Community empowerment.
Community empowerment. Transport, right, we're all going to have something different. Health and social care, okay. Right, I think community empowerment is definitely the first one. Yep. So if I suggest we spend 10 minutes on community empowerment, and then I think the issues that were raised most, I think this was right, was health and social care, were the other issues that was raised by most people. Okay, my apologies, and we will take points from the others.
I can just say, I think that communication and information can be included in the community empowerment.
Brilliant, thank you. Right, okay, that sounds good. Okay, so we'll do 10 minutes on health and social, community empowerment, and then we'll do 10 minutes on health and social care. Lady with the stripy top, because you were so magnanimous, did you want to make a very short point about how that would fit, and then we'll open it up?
Well, regarding the computer use difficult for some, I know in Fife, the main place for computers is in the libraries. Now, there is a motion in Fife to close down the libraries. A lot of it, well, at least the majority of them, 48 libraries, they're going to close down. So therefore, anybody that wants to learn how to use a computer may not be able to do it. Because let's face it, not every elderly person can afford to buy a tablet or a computer. So therefore, that's one place they're going to miss out on. And another socially regarding, the borrowing of books and things like that.
Okay, thank you. Point well made then. If we're then looking at community empowerment, what points would people like to make? And I'll cue you in. It's the discussions. Now, I cut people off, so Robert, you want to start next? And then Lady the headscarf.
Again, emphasise that point that this is a time to be active in community empowerment, because nobody, even the people who passed the Act, know how it's going to work. It's going to, 5 years from now, it'll be established. So let's get it established. I don't think we should be asking to be given any power. I think we should take it. I mean, there are things that we can do among ourselves, that the group can do. I mean, people talk about, for instance, the library not being able to teach people computers. In our town, we've set up a scheme where the school kids come in and teach old people how to work a computer. We have difficulty with getting visits from social workers. Our group does that themselves. If somebody's sick, another member of the group will take them their shopping. Okay. We don't always have to have our hand out. We can get respect by proving that we're still part of the community. We're not old fogies.
Can I just ask where Robert lives? Helensburgh.
Thank you. The lady in the scarf.
Yes, thank you. My name is Mukami Makram. I'm a member of the Kenyan Women in Scotland. I think what I want to say is that when we say community, we actually need to understand that the diversity of the community. And I know there has been reference to a BME, Black and Minority Ethnic Community, but that is also a very loaded term. The smaller communities within minority communities don't have any, are not in the radar of anybody. And if community empowerment, to me, it sounds like a very good tool for looking at people according to need, not numbers. Because the tendency to always look at the majority means that the smaller communities, Africans have been here since 16th century, but when you see the history of Scotland, they don't even appear or even on a fabric, the thing that was made recently. But as they grow older, they tend to leave because of lack of support and lack of network. But it's becoming more and more difficult for them to leave because they either have grandchildren here, and also social and economic status of the countries where they came from have been, or even political security is worse now. So they stay here. And as they get older, their isolation, lack of resources, lack of housing, because they haven't owned property, also becomes a major issue for them. And I think we do need to disaggregate the whole term of community and identify people according to their particular issues and needs. And I'm not suggesting we have separate services. We need also to have more integrated services so that the minority people who cannot form an older people, African older people group, because we are scattered all over the country, we can actually access the services that other people are accessing in our local areas.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Community empowerment? Yep.
You're in big man.
Did you want to say something as well? So if you first and then yourself. Yep.
No, as I said, I think community empowerment can encompasses all the rest of the things. If we don't have a strong voice, then we're not going to get anywhere. I know it's passed, and I know that folk are saying that they don't understand the legislation, but for me, I remember the days when we did have community workers who were working with elderly groups. Folk would come in and, as they say, community empowerment bill, they would come along and they would have been at training. They'd be able to come in and explain it maybe in layman's language, tell us what's going on. I think, you know, with the SNP in control, they're in control of an awful lot of councils, but they're dragging their heels on this. It's not happening fast enough. It says in the Community Empowerment Bill that community councils will play a big part in this. They'll be the third tier of local government. Powers will be devolved to them and they'll be able to make decisions on certain things. In my area, community councils are moribund. They're basically a waste of time. And we need to have a revamp the community councils. And we also need to look at what's happening. I don't know if it's happening in other areas, but where they're setting up these local area committees. In North Ayrshire, they're dividing the area up into 6. I think it's to do with the boundary changes that they're making and having different areas, which will mean community councils will need to be reset up. But community councils need power, real power, no tokenism. And community councils, if they're going to do anything, need finance as well. I mean, if they're going to get £300 and they maybe get photocopying and stuff, that's no use. I mean, if they get sent down a list of properties to decide whether somebody can build a porch or put a garage up, that's not what we're talking about. Okay. And it leads into all these things, health and integrates the health and social care. I mean, we can't go, as already been said, as lay folk, we can't go on to have a vote. Yet everybody else is there, so how do we influence what's going on there? Okay. And we've been trying to find out for ages what's happening throughout Scotland in relation to the integration of health and social care. What stage are they at in different areas, and what happens on the PPF, the Planning Partnership Forums?
Thank you. Okay. I'm just conscious that other people want to speak. You've made some very good points. Thank you. The gentleman next to you, do you want to? Yep.
I'm a gentleman. Thank you very much for that. Then.
Sorry, the man wearing glasses at the end.
John McDonald from North Ayrshire Council. Same authority as Ian here. There was a time where there was community workers. I think we were one of the sort of last local authorities in Scotland to have a community development team, albeit much smaller than Yanesday. But picking up what's on the leaflet here, community involvement or community empowerment is a two-way thing. It's got to come from the community, and sometimes it will come from ourselves where we can nudge people into doing different things. But listen to this one here from the Sikh community. In North Ayrshire, there is a Sikh place which was set up by the Sikh people themselves. So maybe you should come through to North Ayrshire and have a visit there. Yes, but again, that was the community themselves that done that. Again, looking at the paper there, LGBT group, we've got a really successful group there. And ethnic minorities, they have their own centre for ethnic minorities, so all ethnic minorities. So,
we need help like SOPA, you know, to sort of work with them to get something started. And then, as you know, with the Sikh community, we're able to take it on, but we need that first foothold, you know, to get something somewhere to do it, because for years and years I've been coming to meetings and for the elderly and everything, and still nothing's happened.
Okay, thank you. Did you have anything else?
I was just saying, you know, part of that was always a help coming from the community development team. We worked in partnership. So I'll maybe discuss that with you later.
Yeah, please do. That'd be really good. Okay, thank you. So the lady here, is there anybody else who wants to speak about community empowerment? So if yourself, and then you, and then we'll move on to the next topic. I'm really sorry, but it's a fast-moving agenda, so thank you.
I just wanted to say that I initially raised funding for the group that I run, which has about, at the moment, between 20 and 25 people coming to the events. But what I have noticed is that when I ask people, tell me how you feel, is there anything in our area, is there anything in our community that you'd like to see, they kind of go quiet. It's really interesting. Or somebody speaks and dominates and other people just don't say anything. And so I wonder if there's something that needs to be addressed around having the confidence to speak. And especially if the group is a big group, people will not speak. But if we're only 10 of us, there's much more likely that I can chat to people. So there's something around inhibition in a group for getting people to open up.
Okay, thank you. And then last point on community empowerment, please.
It's just to mention that what Alec Neil had mentioned this morning about a Fairer Scotland. And there's an initiative going round which is looking for submissions from people round the country. And they're supposedly holding meetings round the country. I've yet to find out where one of them is. But this was launched in the beginning of June. And if you're looking for empowerment, this is a place to take these things and put submissions into the Scottish Government for all your concerns.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that was a very... Did you want to comment on community empowerment?
I want to say that, again, into Glasgow again, and about communications, that the Council for Voluntary Services in Glasgow are initiating a programme with what they call connectors, and that's a group of people who are going out into the community, and I think probably doing the work that the old community, the community workers did, but they're doing it on a voluntary basis. They've got some money from somewhere, the voluntary service, and they're doing this. And there's quite a lot of them actually about just now, and it sounds quite good, and it might be something that we should really look at on an area basis, if you like, a community basis, because with all there's 38 councils, and we all do their own thing. There's none of them working with each other.
Okay,
and that's one of the things I think we need to get to look at.
Okay, thank you. Is it a community empowerment or very? This is very absolutely specific. The last comment. No, thank you.
There was one. I just saw an email advertising one in Inverness. So one of those meetings, I think next week, they were targeting specific groups of people, but they said everybody was welcome. So they are happening.
So it is real. Right, thank you. That was good. Right, that was very short about community empowerment. But we'll come back to it and we'll think about campaigning actions. If you want to, excuse me, gentlemen, we can only have one discussion. Thank you. You also mentioned health and social care as being an issue and being important for you. And I know there was a long list, but for health and social care, do you have comments and anything that you would like to say about it? Okay, I'm going to cue people in. So the lady in white, right, it was the lady in grey, the gentleman in purple. I haven't missed anybody at this point, and I'll take more in a minute. So the lady in white.
So it was around integration, because Highland has been one of the first areas to integrate health and social care, and one of the things that we're very aware of is the lack of evaluation. So we hear that Highland's being held up as an area that's very successful, but there hasn't actually been any integration of that, and so we would recommend that other areas ask for integrate to make sure that the integration evaluation is built into anything around integration before it starts.
Right, thank you. Good point. What did I say? Lady in grey.
I work for LGBT age, so lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. And I thought it was really great that they brought up earlier about how this group of people can face a lot more social isolation than non-LGBT people, because of histories of marginalization and discrimination. But I think this comes into health and social care. We've been seeing more and more people that are isolated because of their sexual orientation, who are then going into care homes or needing more help within the healthcare and facing discrimination, and people not realizing, not providing appropriate care, and then making them less likely to seek help. So we think it's very important that we need more equalities training and looking at those sort of specific needs of people.
Right, thank you.
Jack, the council, we found we're dismayed what's happening now. Didn't the district council use their own people for care, attendance and everything? But all the housing association in Caledonia, Aberdeen, they've outsourced it to private companies. And we're finding that some people are missing a meal, some people are missing getting dressings done. And when we report it back, nothing seems to come out of it. No.
Okay, thank you. Outsourcing. Did the lady in blue? Is there anybody else? I'll just cue you in so we know where the discussion's going. So the lady in blue wants to speak. Anybody else got? And then the lady here. Lady that's got right. So lady in blue. Right. Okay.
Well,
thank you.
I was just wanting to go with what you were saying about the fact that the coordination is bad, especially among the carers. Not only is coordination bad, again, I hit back to each council doing their own thing, and some of the councils, most of the councils, I would say, probably 99% of them, don't do any monitoring of their carers. So some of the carers are wonderful, and other carers are rotten, but there's nobody there saying, well, I'm managing this bit, this area, or whatever, and you're not up to scratch, you need extra time. There's too many being trained, sit-by-Nelly training. You know, there's one in particular from our group who indicated that she'd gone in as a trainer, as a carer, and when she went in, there was this young woman trying to move a 20-stone woman around her bed with a hoist in the corner. And when she said, why don't you use the hoist? I don't know how to use that, because nobody's shown her. And that's what they were relying on, a sort of, you know, you show me how to work that and I'll be able to do it. And these are things that we need to pick up on. Right. And it's across the whole spectrum of care, of carers. The word I'm looking for.
Thank you. Do you want to?
Sorry, I was linking into what I'd said earlier. I raised the funding, but the group design what we do. But one of the main emphasis is to have fun, which people, when we discussed what they wanted from the group, we realised that a lot of people don't have enough fun in their lives. So the whole emphasis of our Days Out and Delights project is to have fun and joy. And what we've actually found is that by focusing on fun and joy, we have, by osmosis, in a sort of organic way, alleviated depression and feelings of isolation, which is what our which was what our goal was, but not focusing on that policy-wise or in a heavy way, but actually focusing on the lighter side, it's happened. But what we realised is there isn't enough funding for preventative prevention of health. There's not enough funding. There's only funding once there's a disease or a condition, which is, of course, we need as well. But there wasn't enough funding, and I had to go south for the funding. I could not access funding in Scotland. And I'd like to see more funding for prevention of health issues.
Okay, thank you. It was the lady in the scarf and then the lady wearing grey.
Yes, I think I would like to support that, because I think prevention helps. It's always better than cure. Within one of what I wanted to say is within the minority communities, there has always been an assumption that social care and support will be provided by families, but that is no longer the case, because some people don't have families, and others, their families had to leave or go to work in other cities. But even the current services, we find that many people don't access because they don't have information. I don't know why that needs to be linked with community empowerment, because information is important for people to know they're entitled to service, to these services, because they tend to think they don't want to be seen as begging or the pride in the community. But can I say that about Fairer Scotland, there's funding for people to organise even small groups as 5. It's run by Voluntary Action Fund and is provided by the Scottish Government. People can get up to £500 to organise a group of 10 people to do a consultation on a particular issue that concerns them.
Okay, thank you. The lady in grey, then the gentleman there, and then the lady there. Okay, and then that will be the discussion for health and social care, I'm afraid.
Well, mine was just a comment, because I still feel, if you say people having fun, older people have many, many different tastes. And I think we tend to, if you look at old people's homes or whatever, they're all either playing dominoes or they're playing, or at Christmas time they've got daft hats on their head. You know, people, whether they're young or old, have different tastes. And I think we group older people in one category. And the thing that I was talking about earlier is people say, oh, they're like children. No, adults are not children. They're young people who have got old. And I think that's a very important point.
Thank you. I think no.
That's why the people themselves design what they want to do.
But, you know, we've got to be careful with older people.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right, and a point very well made. Thank you. I think everybody appreciated that. Right, sir.
All right. I don't know. This wasn't planned, but I'm following on from what the last two people
That's
have
the way
said.
it goes.
The importance of the sort of wee group scenario. I'm fortunate to live in a retirement flat. There are 70 flats altogether, and we have a wee community within ourselves. Not exclusive, you know. Not everyone is part of this wee community, but I'm pleased to say that we're getting a wee bit funding to maybe run a Christmas party or something like that. That sort of thing. I think this is important. There's a wee bit funding made available for the small groups. By that I mean the groups of in from sort of 5 to 25 or more. You know, a wee bit funding available for people who want to do their own thing.
Right, thank you. That's really good to hear. Thank you. Gentleman with the beard.
I think we need to be arguing through the Scottish Government for some joined-up writing. I mean, health and social care, I mean, what they were saying was we want to keep older people out of the hospital so there's no bed blocking. But at the same time, the people that are doing that are shutting down leisure centres that are populated by elderly groups. And there's no joined-up writing, because, I mean, if I take Irvine as an example, they're shutting down the leisure centre, and there's a big indoor bowling group, predominantly elderly folk, so they now have nowhere to meet. So what do they do? Sit in the house, isolate it. They've nowhere to go, so they stop going out, they become ill, the bed block. And, the joined-up writing is important, so that and again, it goes back to us having a say on these boards. And it's the same thing as Alan Neil was talking about when he talks about housing. It's okay to say we could downgrade our houses into a weir house or something like that. The Tories were saying that as well. But you can't do that if you've not got a houses to go to. And nobody's want to move to the other end of the town where there's no friends and there's no transport. And what we need is we need to be arguing that they need to nationalise the land so they can build houses. No 10,000 houses, 100,000 houses. Let's get real here. And they're just, to me, they're just kidding on. They're no real action. It's a bit like here. For me, it's a talking shop. They're keeping us happy by giving us a couple of sandwiches and kidding on. They're listening to us. The pensioners' power. We've got, how many of us is there in this country? About 1 million or something. We need to be taking action to make folk listen to us. We know all the things that's wrong with us. That's why we're here. We've lived our life. We know what's wrong. And we need action.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and then one final point then. Yep.
Well, I agree with this lady here and this gentleman, what they're saying. For the older people, whether it's the Sikh community or the Scottish community or everyone, I mean, the government, they've got all these buildings in places that are boarded up and that. They could easily let these out to communities like that to set up their own groups or their own for themselves to help themselves.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Right, we've had the discussion. I know it's been really brief and really fast. So we've talked about the two areas, a bit about community empowerment, a bit about health and social care. What we need to do now, we've got less than 15 minutes. We need to agree a couple of action points to take forward. And what I would suggest is we have an action point for community empowerment and we have an action point for health and social care that we take forward, if that makes sense for people. Yep. Can I ask Suzanne to just pull out the edited highlights of what we said about the crucial issues for community empowerment, and then what we'll try and do, I'm looking for suggestions for a campaign action. In your booklet, we've got on the back page for community empowerment, you've got a possible campaign action point, but we might want to, and very likely want to say something different. So while you're thinking about that, I'll just ask if Suzanne will just pull out a few of the points.
I think one of the main points coming out was about the diversity of communities for the community empowerment discussion. It was primarily about not necessarily seeing people as, or identifying people in certain categories, but seeing them as a member of the community in their own right, with their own individual basis. I don't know if that is something that people are interested in. There was a lot of discussion around the lack of understanding on the bill, the lack of clarity, which merged into the debate around having real power and not just tokenistic power from the bill. But real resources needs to go with that to enable that to happen. So it's about the enabling role of older people. And then we did get into a debate about IGB, which sort of linked in with the second priority in terms of representation and how you can potentially become part of that discussion, either through joining on the joint board or through some aspect of the community empowerment bill. I don't know if people have got further ideas of how that might happen, because we didn't discuss that.
Has anybody got suggestions for an action point, bearing in mind the things that Suzanne's highlighted?
One other point just on potential a model was about the connectors model in Glasgow. I don't know again if that is an approach that people want to pursue or not.
Okay.
Connector thing has just started in Glasgow, so we don't know how it's going to pan out, but it will be. And it certainly would be involving all of the people in Glasgow and who are in communities.
Thank you, gentlemen.
In North Ayrshire, there's been community connectors for about 18 months now, doing a similar job to what community workers done, but very, very isolated.
Shut down.
Are we saying though that one of the key things that would be important for campaigning is about support and help for people to understand what their options are within the community and to have more information about it. And somebody also mentioned money, having funding. It's great having power or the ability to do something, but a bit of money behind it can help as well. So if we can come up with a campaigning phrase around more help and support.
Because of the financial situation, a lot of community workers were paid off. Jordan Hill cancelled its community education course. So when I started going about, I get into a community centre, there would be a community worker that was listening to what's going on. They would hear the issues and then they would say, I can help you with that. Where do I get funding to get a community premises away? And I'll help you with that. You don't understand how the community empowerment bills, I'll show you where to get that. Yep. And again, all the things that we've talked about here today all relates into getting that support. I mean, we talk about like the elderly groups don't have the support.
Right, so I think we're agreed that we like the idea. If we're having a campaigning action point, it's around having help and support for people around the issues of, around what they can do with the Community Empowerment Bill. Perhaps going back to models of, you know, that we've had in the past or suggestions from the future, but it's about help and support.
Are you looking, can I ask, are you looking for the, you're saying that they had the course in Jordan Hill College. Do you think this is something that should be reinstated?
Well, I'm just saying that when years ago, when the likes of Strathclyde Pensioners Forum, before the SSA was set up, there was workers in nearly all the groups. That's how we managed to set up the the youth parliament. There was community workers, there was detached youth workers who were out in the street working with young folk, who helped push for that, because you were out encouraging folk to get involved, to be empowered. That's how I got involved when I was when I got paid off as a tool maker. I got into community centres and folks saying you could do this job, and you thought, what was there for me? How could I do that? Or you can do that.
Can I? Because I need to. We're at the point of coming up with campaign actions, and I think we're agreed about what the issue is, and what we need to decide is what that action should be. So something along the lines of SOPA requests more help and support for people to be able to get the most out of community empowerment. Something along those lines is a campaign action. Yep, right, yep.
I think that one of the things is that it's got to go beyond information giving and into actually kind of not just the first step, but there's a whole process that, because often you can get information and pick up lots of leaflets and everything, but it's the beyond that. And there is
more
a group.
Than information.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The lady with the scarf. I'm just really short of time now.
Yes, I think we need to look at this from what is an empowered community, what does it look like, what is the outcome we want, because all the other things are means to that, you know, money, support, buildings and all that. So we need to make it broad enough to make every community be able to use that action in a way to face them in their local situation.
Okay, thank you. The lady in the beige jacket.
Thank you. The personal approach here is really what I feel is important. We need more volunteers in this area. If indeed the course has been cancelled, we need more people who are not in permanent employment themselves to come forward and make sure that new people are welcomed, that they're inclusive and they're supportive. Pieces of paper, I totally agree, that's not nearly enough, neither are emails. It's got to be the personal. When somebody comes and asks you something, we must be positive in our response and make sure that we want them to come in.
Yeah, but in that way we have to have people who are knowledgeable,
exactly,
and who have been trained, whether that means that we need a course at you know, if we need a
volunteer
course
action,
to set up
training for
leaders.
folk.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Agitate, educate, organise.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I just cue you in for that? Can I just cue you in for the discussions? It's Robert and then gentleman with the glasses.
When we're doing an action point, I suggest that we drop words like help and support, because that sounds as if we've got the begging bowl out again. I think we should ask the government to do a proper education programme of the citizenship, not give us help and support, we need it. do their job.
Education programme. Gentleman there.
Thank you. Looking at the possible action plan here, the last line says, support older adults to participate basically. 25 years ago, elder forums were set up, and if you were 55, at that stage you were old. Saga told me some years ago, at 50, I was an older person. I'd only be able to retire or get my pension to a certain age after that as well. So what age do we become older people? Because older people now are living much longer, they're fitter and healthier, and don't want to be, involved in older people's activities because they're too young. Too young at 60, too young at 70, too young at 80.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Action point and what we want to say then. What I've picked up, I don't think we're going to get a sentence, I think that was it, but some key words that we would like in the campaign action then. So, education programme. Yep. We'd like money and funding behind it as well, and we support the idea of greater democracy. Is there any other key words that you would add?
Take notice of what we're saying.
Take notice. Okay, I think we're going to have to say that's it for the community empowerment bit. Okay.
There, Marco Biaggi, whose bill this was, tells me that he's got 30 million available. And we're asking for money. 30 million goes a long way.
It certainly does. Yep. Okay. Okay. Okay.
To put in for grants for anything we want.
Okay. So we've got some thoughts then for community empowerment about some ideas behind taking a campaign action. Bringing your minds back then to health and social care. We would like an action point for that. Suzanne, have you got, say, 3 things that we said as part of the discussion for health and social care? We've got less than 4 minutes left, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Just checking what's on the page there. Okay, one of them was about access to joint boards. That came up in both discussions. Issues around LGBT communities leading on to more equalities training being needed within a care setting. Monitoring of carers. I don't know if that's something that could be incorporated into another aspect. Addressing preventative services, particularly around isolation and well-being, and for the preventative nature of those services to be as important as dealing with disease, etc. That's just a comment. And the other main issue that came up was about joined-up writing, in that older people or the rhetoric is for older people to stay in the community, but all of those community resources are now going away. Therefore, there's very little for older people to do in communities other than become more isolated. So they were the main things.
Okay, they were the main things. So again, we're thinking about an action, a campaigning action to take forward. Yes?
I think it's important that users, that could be us or anyone, have got a voting voice on the integration boards. It just seems nonsense that everybody's got a vote except the people who are using the services. Okay. Well, I suppose people who are on these other boards are using the services, but I think we need.
Okay, so a voting voice is something that nobody's objecting to that. Okay, so that can be something we can say. A voting voice.
Just one point, when we're talking about these things, one of the biggest problems when you go to these committees is it's gobbledygook, and it just goes whoosh, and we really need to make a strong case where I'm putting it in plain language, because if I'm a geek and I go to all these meetings and then I go back into my ordinary meetings, folk don't understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, good point. Yeah. Okay, the lady with the grey jacket.
I still would emphasise you've got to change the attitude towards older people. And they are not, as I said, they are young people who have got older. They're not different.
Yeah, no, I like that. Thank you. Did you have your hand?
Yeah, I didn't want to forget the outsourcing comment from before, and I think that also fits in with the monitoring of carers and the thinking about what our standards are, and I think that that should be something around, you know, where we put the focus and emphasis when we're thinking about fighting cuts and things like that in terms of care.
Right, thank you. I think that's really important. Other key words that strike me, and I'm sorry I'm ignoring you, is, so we've had outsourcing, we've had monitoring, we've had evaluation was mentioned right at the beginning, and the idea about preventative but also joined up services, activities, stuff, as some of the key points that I think we should take away.
Can I just
okay.
add one thing? Make the funding applications easier to do. They're like theses when you have to do them, and it puts people off.
Yep, no, it does indeed. Right, we are totally out of time. So, and dignity, okay.
That's where the NPC Dignity Code could come in really, really handy, because it's basically one of the main things is treat people as you would wish to be treated yourself, and I think that's the main.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. We will add dignity. So we might not have quite got an action point there, but we've got some key words and some key things behind that, values that I think we want to take forward. Can I just say thank you very much for your participation, your thoughts, and just being here today and making sure we keep on track. We will do our best. Bill's got the difficult task of reporting back with what we've said. We have got the notes here, and I'm sure they will be circulated and you'll be able to see them. And I think it'll be interesting to see what everybody else has said in the other discussions. I'm sure some of them will be similar and some of them will be completely different. So thank you very much again for taking part, and I hope you've enjoyed it and it's been worthwhile. Thank you.